Yo, what is up guys, it's Accept here and welcome back to another video. So as some of you might or might not know, before I became a coach I was actually a top lane player. I played a lot of top lane and I even played competitively in some minor leagues. So something which I wanted to bring you guys today was actually a list of top laners, or not really top laners, but champions that I think are really good in top lane, which aren't really played. But before I make this list, I had to set some rules for myself. So example, Karma is not going to be on this list because I do consider her a top laner, even though she's not top lane as main role maybe. Same with other champions like Victor or Rice, for example. If there is a champion that I think it could be meta top lane but isn't meta anymore, but used to be meta or played by a lot of people, then I'm gonna list it, because if it's not played right now, then I do not believe it as meta or consider meta. So if anything, I just want to remind people of the strength of the champion. Anyways, with that being said, I'm gonna go straight into this list. So for my number 10 pick, I actually have Azir. I think Azir is pretty good in the top lane and has been for a while, but no one plays him. Reason being, he's really long range, and when he has his ult, he's actually really safe as well. And his dash is pretty long range if you abuse it well. So the champion is pretty good, and I think with first strike right now in the meta, he could actually be pretty good. He's also one of the AP hyper carries that you get later on into the game, and hyper carries are in general pretty strong right now. So for me, I actually think Azir is pretty good, and no one plays him really, but I think people should. The only problem with him is he might be a bit hard to play, but if you get used to him, then I think he's really strong. Next up, for my number 9 pick, I have Neeko. Well, Neeko actually was considered meta top lane for a while before, but no one really played her, even though people thought she was strong. She's a pretty big lane bully, and I do think she can be decent, especially with Predator right now. And I mean, I'm not sure how the items work on her exactly, hence why I have placed her pretty low, but she's a really hard lane bully, and I think she can also use first strike really well in top lane. In general, I think if you're good at this champion, then she can have insane potential, especially in top lane, where you can lane bully a lot more than mid lane. For my number 7 pick, we all know her, we all love her, it's Soraka. Okay, maybe we don't all love her, but we do know her, and she used to be top lane meta for a while, and I still think she's really strong in top lane, because every time I see it, it's really obnoxious to play against, and it's actually pretty strong. She has some insane synergy with bot lane and like the rest of the map in general, and she doesn't actually need resources, which is pretty good if you want to play a strong side bot lane. She might be a bit awkward in solo queue though, but in general I think this champion is pretty strong, and should be played by more people. The only problem that she might otherwise face is that she's kind of matchup dependent. You can't just blind pick Soraka top lane and then hope it's gonna work. You can flex it, but if you want to blind pick it for top lane, then I don't know, you need to be pretty insane on the champion or hope that the enemy top laner has a really weak champion pool against Soraka. For my number 7 pick, I have Karthus. He's kind of similar to Soraka in the sense that you kind of need to have a pretty good matchup for the champion to work, but otherwise, if you have a good matchup, I think the champion is pretty strong. First strike works really well on him, both in top lane and in the jungle, and you can abuse him pretty hard, I think, and he also has some synergy with the rest of the map like Soraka because of his ultimate, and he scales insanely well. And when I say insanely, I mean insanely well. This is probably the greatest scaling champion in the game, and I think Karthus is insanely broken right now. There are a lot of people who play Karthus in the mid lane, but not in top lane, and I think it's in general because a lot of top laners don't have that kind of playstyle, and it's a bit more fragile in a long lane like top lane. But I think if you have a good matchup and if you're facing the right team comp, then it can work really well. For my number 6 pick, I have Kindred top lane. Now, I actually made a top lane Kindred video a few months ago, but it was more of a meme video and not really a guide or actually explaining how to play the pick. It was just a bit of a joke video, so I wouldn't really recommend watching it, but you can if you want to. Now, the idea behind this pick is just kind of similar to like how Vayne top lane would work. For me, the main difference is though that Kindred actually has more AoE damage and more damage in the early game, so she can easily get prio compared to Vayne. And she also scales insanely well, just like Vayne does. So there's no problem with this pick. I think in general it's a pretty good pick, and I actually recommend this to a lot of people. I don't think there's anything wrong with this champion. For my number 5 pick, I actually have Zac. Now, Zac used to be a top laner a few seasons ago, or not really considered a top laner, but you could play him top lane, that a lot of people did. Now, I'm not really personally sure why this stopped being played in top lane though, because I think it's pretty good. Tanks in general right now are pretty strong, and this champion is pretty good in general when playing against bruisers and playing extended fights. The one problem that this champion faces is playing against range champions. He can't really play against range champions in general, because he can't really poke them at all, and he can't really one-shot from all-ins like Ornn or let's say Malphite or something like that. So he has a really hard time dealing with those kind of champions. But in general, in some games, I would really think Zac is a really insane pick because his engage is like unbelievable. The only bad thing about Zac's engage is that a lot of champions can cancel it. But if you're playing against a team comp which can't cancel Zac engage, then I would really recommend this champion if you need a tank. Now, coming into the final parts of this tier list, I think actually this next pick will be the most surprising to most people. For the number 4 pick, I've gone with Cillian. Now, I don't think a lot of people think of Cillian as a champion in general, not just top lane. But I think he's one of the most broken champions in the game, especially if you can't play him. In top lane, especially, like, a lot of people can't jump on you because you have your slow and you have a speed up yourself. And you have pretty good poke with your Qs if you use it well. The only thing is if you play into another range champion, and it might be a bit hard. Like, if you play into Jace or something like that, it's kind of hard to play the game. But in general, if you're good at this champion, then I think he's really strong because he scales extremely well and he has one of the better gank setups in top lane just because of his speed and slow up. Like, if he slows the enemy opponent and then speeds up his jungler, then it's really hard to escape the gank. Cillian might not be the strongest solo queue champion, as if his teammates are kind of playing it poorly, then it's pretty hard to carry. But in general, I think the champion is real strong and he's really easy to win with if your teammates actually have hands. And so for this reason, I think he's pretty strong and I think he deserves the number 4 position. For the number 3 position, I have Nidalee top lane. Now, Nidalee top lane is not a champion that's really meta anymore, but it used to be really good. And the only people who play it are actually one-tricks that still enjoy playing her. I play her a bit myself, and I have played her a bit on stream if you guys been following me. So I got this account in around Platinum 4 and I grinded it all the way up to Diamond 1 in around 100 games, which I wouldn't consider too much, but it's quite a bit still. But if I had to play it again, I think I would reach it a lot quicker, because when I hit Diamond 4, I actually figured out how to play the champion real well, and I reached Diamond 1 with around 70 to like 80% win rate, which is pretty high. To me, Nidalee has one of the highest carry potentials in top lane, and she has maybe the strongest laning phase which I've ever seen out of any champions. And the main reason why I found out about this pick in general was because I was practicing her for a 1v1 tournament. And then I realized there was nothing that could beat her in 1v1s. Especially not during the laning phase, because she has too much sustain and she has too much poke for melee champions. And she's also too slippery, so she can't be all-in. Now, during Preseason 8 I actually made a guide on Nidalee top lane, but quite obviously this is pretty outdated now, and I would like to make another guide, and that will be coming soon. This is already something which I've been planning on doing, because to me Nidalee is one of the strongest and most underrated top lane champions in the game. The only problem for me with Nidalee top lane is that if you fall behind, then you're not gonna be that useful the entire game. You're not allowed that many slip-ups on the champion, because if you do, you're gonna fall behind, so it makes her pretty hard to play. But if you do learn how to play her, I think she's really rewarding. Alright, so coming into the number 2 position, being the runner-up, as some would say, is Tristana top lane for me. I don't know why people don't play this, to be honest. I think it's really oppressive, and anytime I play against it I always suffer. It's really unfun to play against, and the thing is, there's some bruisers that can survive her, but the thing is, you can't really all-in her because her fucking dash is too long. I don't understand, man. Like, the champion is so fucking broken in solo lanes, and no one plays her anymore. It's so sad to me. Like, the champion got incredible poke, really high range, and then if she wants to all-in, she can do that really easily with her EW. Like, the champion is so overtuned, and then she takes plates really fast as well. The only problem with her taking plates in top lane is that you can't before 5 minutes, but who gives a shit? Like, and then she has a dash, like, reaching through the entire screen pretty much. Like, as long as you're not playing into Camille and getting ganked permanently, I don't see how the champion is not broken, to be honest. For me, it's incredible that people don't play this right now. Alright, so before we go into the number 1 position on this tier list, I actually want to really quickly bring up some honorable mentions. So the first honorable mention for me is Hecarim. I feel like this champion is actually pretty good in top lane, but he kind of doesn't fit in the meta right now. It's kind of awkward for him to play like most matchups in top lane, I would argue, so I wouldn't recommend picking him right now. The second honorable mention for me is Kalista. The only problem I have with Kalista really is that she's extremely difficult to play, and that if she doesn't get really far ahead, she's just entirely useless, and even if she does get ahead, she is probably gonna be useless. The problem with me for her is that she's just an aim bully and nothing else. And I feel like she's just a worse Tristana and Nidalee in general. Alright, and the last honorable mention for me is gonna be Taric. I know a lot of people are playing this champion in top lane right now, especially with the new tier item. I don't know what to think about it. I haven't tried it personally, so I'm not gonna put it on this tier list just for that reason. But I think it could be alright. I've seen some people play it in the past, even before the preseason, and it's not that weak in lane, to be honest. Alright, so coming in at the number 1 position for me, it's gonna be Vi top lane. I think most of you guys saw this coming, as if you guys know me, I play a lot of Vi top lane right now on stream, and I also made a guide on it a few days ago, so if you guys want to, you can go check that out. Either way, Vi is a really good champion in top lane right now, just because she has a really good setup, she has really good base damage, and she actually is pretty strong in lane. Like, she has a lot of options as well. She's kinda easily comparable to Camille, I feel like, because she has a really good setup, she has really good 1v1s. The only major difference I feel between these two champions is that Vi is a bit better in the early game, while Camille is a bit better in the late game. But right now in the meta, I actually kind of prefer Vi personally, just because she can play with lethal tempo compared to Camille, and we all know lethal tempo is a really broken rune right now. If you guys haven't already, I would recommend trying buy top lane out. I actually think it could be really good, and one strength with it as well is that you can play it in other lanes as well. As Camille, you can play it mid lane, but not a lot of people do. But you can play Vi in pretty much any role except for ADC, in my personal opinion. Of course, this requires a bit more testing, so maybe don't go and first time Vi support in ranked, please. Then I'm gonna get the blame for it. I don't want that. Anyways, I do think it's really strong though. And in general, I think Vi is a really good champion right now. Anyways, guys, this is gonna be it for today's tier list. If you guys have any other picks that you like in top lane that are off meta, then please drop them down below. Otherwise, leave a comment on any feedback you have or what you want to see next, because I always read them and I always listen and I try to. If you liked the video, then please leave a like and subscribe. Anyways, guys, I hope you all enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more.